What's up, Will?
How are you?
Good to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, we will let a couple of people jump on here. But Will, excited to have you talk through inventory management with us. I'll have you kick off, Will, and just give us like a little bit of your background, kind of what you've done up until Redo, and then your role at Redo, and then we'll jump into a couple questions from there.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, super great to be on here. Former to joining Redo, I actually was a merchant myself. So I've been in e-commerce since I was 13 years old. Started my first online business back then, in about eighth grade, I think. And it kind of just got me into the weeds of, some of the different problems that you experience selling online, and really just kind of got obsessed with the idea that, I never had to actually talk face to face with anyone, and that there could be a transaction that would make me money from a computer, at 12 years old. And
Right.
so that's kind of where my career starts in terms of e-commerce. I later sold my business to a neighbor who's actually running a company called Solo Stove, and at the time there were only about 10 employees. And so I helped around the warehouse and then joined him full time, and ran his whole marketplace. And eventually Solo Stove actually IPO'd and bought Chubby's, Oru Kayak, and some other big e-commerce brands. And so really just got the full experience of not only like a successful startup, but really just experiencing some of the growing pains that most merchants face as they're building. So that's kind of my background. On the e-commerce side, I studied mathematics and computer science, and I'm now GM over inventory management, bring into life the vision that AI can basically run your e-commerce brand for you. That's what we're running.
Yeah, I love it. I think as opposed to some of the other GMs, you bring a lot more like e-commerce experience directly, having run a handful of different stores yourself. So especially as we talk through some of the pain points of inventory management, I think you're positioned uniquely to be able to you acutely understand exactly what those pains feel like and would hope for a solution. So I think over the past couple months, I know you've been very in the weeds, out talking with people. You've been on multiple calls every day, just kind of gathering information and understanding the pain points from merchants. So walk us through a little bit of like some of the most common pain points that merchants are typically running into right now when it comes to inventory management.
Yeah, this is a great question. There's a lot of pain when it comes to inventory management, and I'll kind of split it into two different answers. There's the Redo side of pains, and then there's just kind of the general market of e-commerce brands. Redo, as most people know, is more in the Shopify space. Obviously, we have like our OMS product that works with Amazon, TikTok Shop, some other marketplace channels. But from a Redo perspective, people can't even really forecast how much they're going to sell within, a 70% accuracy band over the next 30 days. There's just so many variables that come into play when you're trying to think about what you should order. And when you think about what like an e-commerce merchant or brand actually is doing, is they're really just a middleman, right? They either make their products or they buy them from someone and then they sell them to other people. And it's kind of this volume game where it's just buying and selling basically. And so you have to be very precise and methodical about how you buy inventory. Now from the other side of things, it's like the general e-commerce space. A lot of the pain comes from like data integration. And a good example of this is like Amazon will give you session level data at the SKU level, whereas Shopify won't. Right. And that in and of itself can like give so much more prediction power, if it's hooked up correctly. And so then we go into, how do you get that data to talk and sync and all that stuff? And that's what we're doing with inventory management is we're really just starting with the demand planning. And from there we can build all sorts of different AI features that use that data that we make predictions off of.
That's, yeah, makes a ton of sense. Walk us through a little bit more on the merchant side. What is that like? How does that impact your brand, right? If you're over purchasing, you're under purchasing, you don't really have those same cues, understanding which people are viewing what products. Like, what is the ultimate pain that you're feeling, and how is that impacting your business or your potential to grow?
Yeah, so on average, merchants will overstock their core items by about 15 to 20%, which that kind of goes back to your point. The overstock pain is that capital is tied up and can't be invested into other products that currently exist or that could exist that you could go out and source and sell. right? So that's problem number one is overstocking. And then understocking, people just make poor predictions and they don't have anything to sell. And so then they run into all sorts of customer service, related inquiries, and it just the bottleneck explodes and makes it really hard for their business to run efficiently.
Yep. Yep. Makes a ton of sense. So as you've then ingested all this information, you've felt the pains, you've talked to merchants feeling the pains, you then jump in to build a product to solve those pains. Walk us through a little bit of what you're building and
Yeah.
how you're kind of combating each of these pain points.
Yeah, so the first thing that we're really focused on building right now is that demand planning side of things. So once we can get, pure data that within a 90% accuracy band that says, hey, you're going to sell this many units, we can then give that to the merchant and they can make decisions based off of that data as to what they want to purchase and how they want to use their cash. But we also have AI agents that, basically do the finance processing for you. So we'll look at 15 SKUs that are going to restock or stock out in the next couple of days. And then it will analyze and say, hey, like your return on investment for these, three and maybe they're middle of the pack SKUs in terms of like how much velocity they'll sell. So you should actually create purchase orders for these ones rather than, maybe the top selling ones because they give you a higher profit margin, right? And so this does two things is it makes better decisions on average than humans. It's AI, like it's programmatically like structured to think in a structured way every time it makes a decision, and it will make more accurate decisions in terms of what's going to return your capital quickest. So I can show some of the working demo. It's being worked on right now, so you'll have to bear with me if that's okay.
Yeah, walk us through a little bit of it. I think one thing that's going to come up too that's going to be pretty top of mind is how do we factor in anomalies? Like, how do you look at either holiday sales over a certain weekend or a one-off product drop or, I mean, Black Friday, Cyber Monday coming up? So as you walk us through, kind of like also touch on that a little bit, I feel like that's an interesting piece to think through how you're building to make sure that we still stay within a very high accuracy on prediction, but also account for anomaly dates.
Yeah, that's a great question. So can you see my screen okay here?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'll go ahead and let me see if I can expand this for myself. I'll go ahead and kind of hop into some of that question here. It's more of a data science question, and here at Redo, we have a data scientist from MIT and a lot of top-notch universities that are working to solve this question. But I think a good general answer to that is that consumers tend to behave similarly year over year. And so whether or not your listing has a small amount of data or whether or not it has like a ton of data, we're able to, obviously, the more data, the better. We're able to extrapolate based off of market trends that we pull from external databases, as well as Redo has lots of merchants, right? And so we know all of the exogenous variables, all of the variables that can impact how you're going to sell. And so we even have things like the number of times you're mentioned on Reddit. Like that's something that we can track, and we can enrich basically your predictions based off of that. And we make predictions at the SKU level, not just at the store level. So if you have cross-selling SKUs that tend to be highly correlated, you can measure that correlation. And I'm using correlation loosely because it's not really correlation, but you can look at that correlation and add that as an input basically into the model to say, hey, like if this SKU starts to ramp up a lot, this other one's probably going to start ramping up a lot too. Or, with a new listing, it's like, hey, we're launching a pair of blue jeans, but we currently sell pink jeans. We launched the blue jeans 3 months ago. How much are the pink jeans going to sell? We can look at that growth curve and learn for that collection of product, how quickly that new product that you listed is going to grow. And so one of the cool things, so again, bear with me in terms of the product demo here. We do have like a live version that we're testing with some of our beta users, but this is kind of like your home base. It shows product families, which are here, and then it shows all the variants. It actually shows like the exact amount of inventory that you have at the warehouse that you specify. So there's these little drop downs. You can click into the variants, and then we'll give you units to order on what date, and we'll give you a confidence score based off of our prediction. And so with that, like we actually give guarantees, like if you're interested in, using our prediction software, but you're kind of like, I don't know if it's going to work, you don't pay for it unless it does work. And the reality is that most people aren't data scientists that are merchants. They're just business savvy people that know how to move quickly and know how to deliver product. And so really we've done all the grunt work of learning the data science, all the different inputs, and give a guarantee on it in terms of like predicting your inventory. So hopefully that adds a little bit of clarity. Happy to dive into anything on here that might be interesting.
No, I think this is great. It gives a really good overview, and I think being able to understand like our targets as far as confidence level and really like putting our name to it is a very important piece. Just because I mean, if you're able to just guess by yourself, then what's the point in using a software? But understanding that we have so many different pieces baked in, and that we're holding ourselves to a 90% accuracy standard, I think is a huge piece that you already touched on. And you touched on anomalies a little bit. Is there, yeah, I guess I'll just let you keep rolling as you scroll through and show us a little bit more on what you're looking at here.
Yeah, yeah. I think to your point too, a lot of people, sometimes I call it guessing, sometimes I call it, linear demand forecasting. Like people might look at this right here and they'll just draw like the line of best fit, that they can through the historical orders. But, you have seasonality that comes into play. You have weekly cycles, like people's jump from Sunday to Monday usually looks really similar in terms of like how many sales increase they get. And so we give you a nice little dashboard where you can see, and we're refreshing daily, basically those predictions so that you can have the most accurate data possible. Obviously, like there are cases where anomalies occurred where we're not tracking specific things like, and there will be exogenous spikes in their data that causes things to go out of whack. But as soon as like you refresh the data, it will adjust for that prediction. But all of these predictions thus far, they've been in 94% accurate has been the accuracy range off of the merchants that we've been testing on. So yeah, you've got this cool little sliding bar. You can basically adjust the future in terms of what you're seeing. You can also adjust like how far back you go. One of the cool features about this too is we're not just doing like analytics, we also have product details. So I mentioned earlier that we connect to a bunch of different sales channels. So if you're only on Shopify and you haven't wanted to go through the headache of managing an Amazon catalog, there's some really good news because you can just click this button and basically push your entire catalog to all of the different marketplaces and have all those changes synced. Obviously, there's different meta fields that go into each of these marketplaces that you might have to go in and specify, but our AI as well can enrich all of those different meta fields if you approve the enrichment suggestions. So pretty great. Yep, there's Patrick, one of our on our engineering squad. As of right now, in terms of like what we're rolling out and what we've been showing people is we show them, what was our confidence, what did we predict, what was the versus the predicted difference. And then we give them that percent difference score. And then we show them like the future range here. So it's just a table view as of now. And obviously things will continue to develop as we get more and more feedback and push this live for more and more people.
Yep. Makes a ton of sense. I think one question that I've been thinking too as you've walked through this, Will, is just, I guess, how has it been received? Like as you're talking with merchants and people, I know you have some people on right now. What are the main pieces that they're most excited about? Because as you've talked through a good amount of the feature set and what we're building and what the goal and vision is of it, like what are maybe one or two pieces that you feel like are the most impactful right now for brands?
I think one of the most impactful is having an all-in-one solution that actually is correct. Like there's always these kind of like one-off things of, oh, like I'm selling here, like I have a piece of data here that can't like forces them to have to create their own spreadsheet model. But really like we're setting out to bring that all in-house so that you don't have to have 1,000 tabs open to forecast one SKU, right? All of our data is cleaned and formatted correctly and brings it into a product record view where you can see across all your channels how that SKU is performing. And then, we can make recommendations and you can take actions based off of all of that data. So your question was like, what are people most excited about?
Yeah, give me just like one piece of it that people are really grabbing onto.
Yeah, yeah. So that kind of just like clean data thing, like not having to export all their stuff and do data science by themselves is really nice. And then also just like we have this capability where you can just most people's Shopify inventory is not correct. So like we just made a simple scan feature where you can go out and just scan what you currently have on hand and it will update to Shopify to be true and correct. So that was like step one. It's crazy that, there's people out there that their source of truth being Shopify, like it's not a source of truth. They're having to run it out of a spreadsheet. They're having to manually go in there and update both the spreadsheet and then into Shopify, and it becomes this huge big pain that we've been able to resolve through, one little feature. Um, and so once you publish, let's say you have like 50 cotton hats or you're getting 50 cotton hats and you had nine, so now you have 59. That will then be published as available to all the different channels, which is really, really nice. So pretty seamless in that aspect.
Yeah, that's awesome. Similarly, it's like it feels like as you jump in and you're going to build your own Shopify store, you're going to be sending and selling a bunch of different products. Either, I mean, you have choices. You do it yourself, you do it in a spreadsheet, you hire a group of people to do it, are really the options that you have. In this case, it gives you a little bit more of a feasible opportunity to have a higher percentage of accuracy and do it with less people.
Yep.
And so both wins for a merchant and having confidence, right? Like it's scary enough going and running your own e-commerce brand with all of the ups and downs and variables that can happen. And knowing that you have like software on your side that's helping you predict your inventory, I think is a huge peace of mind aspect as
Yeah.
well.
One point kind of there is I think merchants honestly are a little bit scared of the capability of this because it's automating their job. Or sometimes I'm pitching to the person that does the forecasting and all of a sudden it's like I can predict better than a team of five people, that each of them gets paid X amount of dollars annually and someone has to manage them and all these different moving parts. Like our software is cheaper and is guaranteed based off of performance, basically. And so I think there definitely will be this shift in terms of how people think about forecasting and whose responsibility it should be. But I don't think people have like fully grasped that like, hey, AI can actually do this a lot better than some of these, different procurement specialists, for examples. I was going to show this as well. So this is another feature that we're pushing live today. Actually, it's a dynamic pricing agent. And back in my days at Solo Stove, hopefully no one bought a Solo Stove during this period of time when I'm about to share the story from. So um, Amazon's really tricky in terms of keeping track of inventory and like keeping it in stock. And Solo Stove at the time during COVID, we were constantly stocking out of things. We had a lot of supply chain issues. We didn't necessarily have like cash issues. We had a lot of cash, but like our supplier couldn't actually keep up with the demand from the consumers. And so we would frequently stock out on Amazon. And so what I would do is I would just sit and look at the sales of all of our kind of top selling SKUs or the ones that I thought were going to stock out. And I would increase the prices by like 5 or 10% as they, got closer to being fully stocked out. So let's say like we had a shipment coming in 30 days and we have 15 days of inventory left. Typically in my head I would do the math and go, okay, like if I increase the price by you know, 10%, then it will slow down the sales rate to this. And then, we can capture more margin. We've basically just automated that. So, some people have really good reaction to this, but it's a nice little add-on feature that you can turn on. And it basically just prices your products based off of rules that are looking at your inventory live. So like here you can go in and say, hey, when inventory is less than 50, the price is this. When it's less than 25, the price is that, so on and so forth. And you can add different thresholds and add as many products to as many rules as you want. It's like a really simple thing, but you'd be surprised at the amount of people that actually just do this manually or hire someone to do this for them, right? It generates tons of margin for business owners that feel like it's a good fit for their business.
Yep. Yep. I think one of the things that's most exciting for me about this product is that it is very new. You have a lot of experience and there's a lot that can be done that can be automated, it can be efficient, it can be a real margin driver for merchants. And so I guess I'm excited as we have more of these ongoing, right? If we roll through
Yeah.
every 6 weeks or every 8 weeks and kind of hear how things are progressing on the product, I'm very excited to see what you and the team are able to build and what you're growing towards. And so
Yeah, I'll be
really
honest,
cool.
I was a little bit nervous hopping onto here because, we're just in such preliminary stages and there's so much in my head that in my head it makes sense, but we don't have, everything live quite yet. But like by the hour, we have new things, rolling out. Like today, the pricing agent will be live. And like I mentioned earlier, there's going to be tons of agent features like this that are fully dependent on an inventory management system that like is truthful, right? And so once you have that truthful piece, you can then go in and start building out all these different other features that will help manage your catalog for you, right? There's just so many ideas rolling around that we're getting to building, and even ideas like this, it's going to take us a day to implement, right?
Right.
It's
Yep.
not a big timeline. It's just a matter of getting, some of these early sync features working, which, is actually really hard, and which is why a lot of merchants have this problem is they don't know how APIs work. They don't know how to build their own database to like manage all the syncing, and so that's why they go to spreadsheets, and it becomes very repetitive and a real pain for them.
Yep. I've seen the roadmap. You showed it to me. It's very exciting. Starts with a really strong foundation. Like you said, it starts with accuracy, and then from there, building additional pieces on that just are more and more beneficial, all contingent on, like you said, the accuracy and being able to have a strong and reliable inventory management system. And so, as we have you on next time, I'm very excited to see. I know the team moves fast. It's
Yeah.
very redo way. And so, as ideas come up and they add to the roadmap and you build things out, I think we're going to have an entirely different conversation the next time we have you on the podcast and or on the webinar. And so it's going to be awesome. Will, very
Yeah.
excited for you. Do you have anything, final touches, final pieces you want to chat through, or we good to wrap up?
No, I mean, I think the main things are just, yeah, like I think the next webinar will be really telling as to where we're at and how quickly we can, come through with a lot of these different features. But I'm just super excited. If there is anyone out there that's listening to what I'm saying, feel free to shoot Redo a ping or shoot me a ping about your idea, and we'd be more than willing to try and implement it because there's just, it's just there's so many different ideas that we've been getting that are just really good. So I appreciate those coming in.
Okay, awesome. Well, appreciate your time again today. We'll have you on in a little bit, and yeah,
Sweet.
really appreciate you walking us through
Really
everything today.
enjoyed it. Okay. See
Okay,
ya.
bye.